Okay, Baruch haba, welcome everyone. We are on our Language of the Prophets series, and we are on a new book, Vayikra, Leviticus, which in Hebrew is Vayikra. What's Vayikra, guys? Vayikra. What does that mean?
Leviticus?
Yeah, well, you're right.
Leviticus?
Yeah, we do say Leviticus, but what does it literally mean in Hebrew? Vayikra, look at it. Vayikra. Kara, what's kara? This is one of your vocab words.
From kara.
Yeah, what's kara?
To call.
Yes, call.
To call.
That's right. Kara is call, and yiqra, this is imperfect. So what does yiqra mean? Just by itself, yiqra. Imperfect,
Cool.
yiqra. So it can mean he will call or he calls, right? But then we have our vav conversive. So it would have been,
Conversive.
right? So it would have been va yiqra, right? We'd expect it to be pointed like this. Va yiqra. You can see my points, right? Yeah. Vayikra. Vayikra. So that means and he called, right? Or then he called, when he called, whatever the vav is going to do, right? Remember, we have to be flexible with translating vav. Here we have our nice mishkan. I found this online, the stuff coming down. I couldn't find the artist name to give credit. It just was on a shared thing from Microsoft. So okay, fine. Okay, so let's get to it. So the first aliya for this week's Torah portion is Vayikra, chapter 1, verse 1 through 13. A nice set of 13 verses, which is good because vocabulary. Now, I want to tell you guys about Leviticus, all right? And I'm thinking maybe I'll give you guys, if you're interested, maybe I'll give you my translation from this week's Parsha and kind of, I'm thinking of having you go through and compare it to the Hebrew as you go through and look and see what you think, right? To see if you, okay, someone's got some weird noises I'm going to have to mute, but feel free to talk. Anyone's allowed to talk, right? This is our, we can do this here. It's not a normal drash. So I'm kind of thinking of doing that, like maybe after class, I'll send you guys a PDF of the translation I did last year or 2 years ago. Oh, I think it's 2 years ago of Leviticus, and kind of compare it to the Hebrew and see for the whole parasha. I think that's what we're going to do this week. I want you to go through, really get into the text, and it's true that Leviticus is a bit harder in some places than other places in the Torah, but that's mostly just vocabulary, and I'm going to be helping you with that. All right. But Leviticus is also the holiest book, just like the Torah is the holiest set of books in the entire Tanakh. The book of Leviticus is the holiest. It's often called the Lev HaTorah, the heart of the Torah, because it's sandwiched in between the other books. It's in the middle, right? So this is a very, very sacred book. And even though sometimes the readings may seem mundane, I think you guys are going to really get excited spiritually as you're wrestling with the text. Like, I can tell you from my own experience, reading Leviticus in English was horrible. Just so boring, most of it. But reading in Hebrew, exciting. It comes to life. There's just, I don't know, there's something happening when you're reading these things in the Hebrew. So hopefully you guys will experience that some of this. And I know I'm kind of throwing you into the deep end, like by immersing you in Leviticus, but I think it's going to pay off for you guys in the end. And hopefully we can do more than just the first aliya this week. Hopefully, please pray for me to get better with freeing up some time and stuff. I'd love to get at least 3 aliyot every week with you guys. Okay, especially now we're in the holiest book of them all. So anyway, if you guys are interested, if you like the idea to go through to see how I translate it, let me know and I'll send that over to you. It's got my comments and translational notes and probably some errors. If you see errors, I'd be happy to know what they are, since this is an unpublished book. My translation of Leviticus I didn't publish, but maybe I'll just send this week's parsha, and you can look at the Hebrew and see. I think it'll give you some pointers on a better way to translate, because sometimes the thing that makes Leviticus confusing is not being aware of secondary definitions for certain words, right? So we'll talk about some of those today. All right, so let's go. All right, we have a minion. I'm excited you guys are all here. Welcome, Yomar, again. Baruch Hashem, Baruch Haba. All right, so let's look. All right, getting into the...
Hi.
Yeah, welcome. Any questions or comments, anyone? Okay, so for those of you who are kind of new to our group here, when I have something glowing in a color, that means I'm going to have an associated note pop up with it. When it's just a solid color, here I try to do solid color, I'm not sure if it works so well. If it's just a solid color, that means I'll just talk about it as we go, but I'm not going to pull out a full separate note for you on it, okay? So, and with Leviticus, we just end up having a real estate problem. Like, it's just hard to fit everything on there. So let's go. So verse Aleph, this is the first verse of the first chapter of Vayikra. And it says, Vayikra el Moshe, and then it ends. That's the end of our clause, that one little thing right there. So what does that say? Vayikra el Moshe. Who wants to jump in and translate that?
Rabbi, can I?
Sure.
Lord, vayiqra el Moshe. He said to Moses.
Almost. Who wants to help?
He called.
Yeah, that's right. And he called unto Moses. And actually, it's okay if you like in your own translations to just say he summoned Moses, right? Because that's really what's happening. When Hashem calls to Moses, he's really summoning him, usually to the tent of meeting, right? So Moshe gets summoned, and then he goes in there where it's the holier spot to talk to Hashem, because the Shekina is much more intense in that area. If you've ever studied physics, I don't know how many of you have ever studied physics. I had to do a lot of physics in university because I was studying aerospace engineering at the time. Go ahead. Yeah, well.
Yeah, we studied physics.
You did too? Okay, great.
It's my favorite subject.
Yeah, right. Yeah, physics is great. Yeah, I like the hard sciences. I'm not such a fan of the soft sciences, the ones where you can really prove stuff, right? It's not like up to an artist's rendition of the sketch, like in biology sometimes. But so the thing in physics, you probably remember, with energy, you can have flux, something called flux. It's kind of like the energy density through a certain surface, right? Like if you have sun shining on, let's just say, a piece of glass or some other clear material, the energy that's going through that glass is the flux, right? That's the flux. It's the movement of the energy through that area. And so whenever I read something that talks about the Shekina, or we have the Shekina, I cannot help but think about this phenomena in physics. And it makes sense that the natural order that Hashem created would somehow have something in common with how he himself exists. And so what we find, I think it's helpful to think of the Shekina as having different levels of flux, depending on the holiness of the area, right? So I think this is why Hashem, he would summon Moshe. That's why it's vayiqra el Moshe. Then he summoned him, right? So Moshe is outside the ohel moed, perhaps outside the tent of meeting, or maybe he's not in the holy spot. He gets summoned and he goes where the Shekhinah has a higher flux. It's like more compact. The glory of God, His presence, is more compact in those places. And so you would see this if you're, say, in India, where it's obviously clearly ruled by pagans, and by, in large part, and whatever dark spirits are given over those principalities, the flux of Hashem's spirit, I think of a Shekhinah in those places, is much less. As you go up to Israel, you're entering the Holy Land, and you're going to have a higher incident, I think, of the flux of the Shekhinah Hashem. You go up to Jerusalem, it gets more dense, right? There's an increase in flux, and then you get to the Temple Mount, the Kotel, the Wailing Wall, higher. And in the ancient days, if you went inside the temple complex, higher. You go into the court where only the Levites were allowed, higher. You get into the place where only the Kohanim are allowed, higher. And you finally get to the Devir, the Holy of Holies. The Devir, which reminds us of Davar, the word, the place where the word would be presented. And you have the highest intensification of the flux of the Shekhinah's presence per place, which is why it's dangerous for someone who is not at a high enough holy level to be at that place. Okay? And for those of you who've heard me kind of pick on these stories of, there's these charismatics talking about, the Shekhinah glory cloud. Yes, everybody was covered with gold glitter. I laugh because I don't want to cry about that stuff, because it's just so ridiculous. If you have that kind of level of the Shekhinah showing up, people are going to die, right? Unless they're at a very holy state, right? Their bodies, their temples are holy, right? Everything is holy, everything is pure. There's a high taharot, a high purity level for them. And so here we have Hashem is summoning Moshe. And I have a note on this. Hashem is summoning where? From the tent of meeting. This is a logical continuation from the end of Exodus, right? So we're continuing. So Hashem's in the tent of meeting, Yoel Moed. Moshe is not. and Hashem summons him, right? He calls him in. He's not going to have the full conversation with him outside the tent because that is a less sanctified area. Does that make sense to everybody?
Question.
Yes.
In Exodus 33, it says Moses. This was after the golden calf incident.
Uh-huh.
It says now in verse 7, Moses used to take up the tent and pitch it outside the camp, a good distance from the camp, and he called it the tent of meeting. So was this the tent of meeting you're referring to, and not the mishkan?
Okay, that's an interesting question. No, usually when we say the tent of meeting, we are talking about the mishkan, the ohel moed. Yeah, so I might have to look at that verse that you're asking about. Look, can I look at it real quick? Oh, hold on, what is it? It's Exodus
33, verse 7.
Okay, Exodus 33, verse 7. Okay, hold on. 33.
Because at this time, the mishkan was not yet built.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, so I understand, right? We have a development over time of the place for the indwelling of Shekina, right? So it starts just as a small tent, which is cut off from everybody, and then over time, then we have the artifacts that are brought for making the ark, and for making the covering for the tent and all these sorts of things, and then we extend to that, and we have the outer courtyards, and we build the altars and all those sorts of things, and then eventually, another generation later, we get the Beit HaMikdash, we get the actual temple compound, right? While the Mishkan's actually dwelling in Shiloh, we have the temple compound built, and then the Mishkan is moved inside that temple. Yeah, so you're right. We have a gradual progression, a gradual increase in sanctification of where Hashem is invited to speak with Moshe and the other, and who later will become Kohen HaGadol. Yeah. You already answered your own question, so I'm not really sure. I guess my answer to you is yes.
Yep.
Yeah, nice understanding. Thanks for making me think about that. Yeah, that's very interesting. Yeah, okay, I see here it is. Yeah. Moshe yikach et ohel v'natan lo michutz. So then Moshe took the tent and he pitched it outside the camp. So why outside the camp? Because the camp was not holy enough, right? So even then he's trying to get it away from people's normal lives that are not so sanctified. Yeah. Lamachane harchek, and he made it far, hamachane, far from the camp, meaning the camp of the Bnei Yisrael. The kalalo ohel moed, yeah, and then he called to him. He called it the ohel moed, the tent of meeting. Yeah, nice. V'haya kol mevakesh, and anyone who was searching or sought Adonai, Yetze would go out el ohel moed to the tent of meeting, asher mechutz lamachane, which was outside of the camp. And here it's interesting. The lamachane, you actually have to understand. It in the Ugaritic sense of from, like outside from the camp, outside of the camp. So yeah, nice question, very nice. I like it. Yeah, any follow up or any other questions? Again, this is open mic, guys.
Also say,
Go ahead.
sometimes, and further in verse 11 it says, "Thus the Lord used to speak to Moses face to face,
Yeah.
just as a man speaks to his friend." So that was in the same tent of meeting.
Yeah. In verse 11, right? V'daber Adonai al Moshe panim el panim, literally face to face. And of course, we understand with our theology that this is not the Father speaking to him. This is actually Yeshua in all likeliness, at least because we understand that no man has seen the Father face to face, right? Except the Son. And so, in order to have completeness in the Scripture, to not have contradictions, we have to understand that this is a different aspect of God, right? Namely, the Malach Hashem, the angel of the Lord, in whom He put His name inside of him. Yeah, that's who's speaking face to face to Moses. That's my understanding of it, at least. Sorry if I'm talking too quickly. Slowing it down now. I just caught myself.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure. Very nice comments. Very interesting stuff. Okay, good. So let's get back here. So in verse Aleph, let's continue. Vadaber Adonai elav me'ohel moed le'emor. Okay, so what's Vadaber Adonai elav mean? Anybody?
And Adonai
And he
spoke
spake unto him.
Yeah, it's very good. Yep, both of you. Great. Okay, me ohel moed.
unto him
What's me ohel moed?
from the tent of meeting.
Yeah, right. So you see the picture in the background here. So Hashem's Shekina's in here, and he calls to Moshe, who's outside of the tent, right, outside of the ohel moed, right. So the ohel moed has developed. It's now synonymous with mishkan. Yeah. Okay. Great. So he calls to him, and You see, why is it may? Why is there a tsere here? Anybody?
Where?
Rabbi, because the aleph is guttural.
Yes. Right. So just to expand on what he said, so we would have expected, we have mean, right, guys? Mean.
Yes.
Mean. I see you understand it fully, though, and the computer doesn't want to draw. Come on. It drew the mem. I mean the noon. Okay. Mean.
Yeah.
Mean means from, right? Okay. Sorry for the sloppy mem, right? And remember the rule, guys. It can either stand by itself or the noon can assimilate, putting a dagesh in the next letter. But aleph, as brother said, rejects the dagesh, and so the short vowel hirik lengthens to the long vowel seri. And I would recommend, since we're taking it easy on grammar this week, if you guys do not know which vowels are short and long yet, please review those exercises, review those charts. If you need, I can send a chart over to make sure that you know when you see this is a long vowel, seri, right? And this is a short vowel, patach, right? And this is a long vowel, kametz, right? And this is a short vowel, segol, short vowel, chirik, right? Etc., etc. Okay? Make sure you know those, because this is helpful for the grammar. Okay. May, ohel, moed. Okay, so this is a construct chain. Ohel, moed. And you see, you don't have to learn the accents yet, but I just want to show, I remember a while back, Bessie, maybe several months ago, had asked, why is maqqef not there sometimes, or how do we know if maqqef's not there, that something's in construct? And the full answer to that question is you see a reduction in vowels, right? So vowels will oftentimes become shorter if they can shorten. But another answer is the ta'amim, that is the accent marks, the cantillation marks. Later you will learn when you have a conjunctive cantillation mark, like this one, meracha, meracha, he tells you he's connected somehow to the word next to it. And you see the tipcha pointing back to this one, they're pointing to each other. So it's really quite obvious once you get used to them that these words are associated. So it's as good as having a maqqef here, having a maqqef. So this whole thing is then a construct chain. Ohel moed is the tent of meeting. Yeah?
Rabbi,
Yes.
there's no need to put a maqqef because mircha, tipcha, and pasuk.
Right. You don't have to have the maqqef
Thank
there.
you.
Yep, don't have to have the maqqef. Because not sof pasuk, but the mercha tipcha, that does it. Sof pasuk isn't until over here. That's this guy. Oh no, this guy, sof pasuk, sorry. Yeah. So let me see. Yeah, it's because the accent marks, right? And I'm just going to mark it with our standard blue square that we use for marking construct. If the computer, it's not drawing it nicely. Okay, fine. Just pretend that's not angled. Okay, good. Okay, emor, same. Verse 8, verse 2. Daber el Bnei Yisrael v'amarta alehem Adam ki yakriv michem korban ladonai. All right, so daber, what's this? What form is this? Daber. What's it mean, or what's the form?
Piel.
Imperative.
Yes, imperative. Piel, to
Piel.
speak, right?
Speak thou.
Very good. Yes, speak. Good. So speak. And the sages teach us that usually when you see the word dabel instead of emor, right, that it's a stronger sense of talking. So when Hashem says to speak, it's usually about issuing a command, right? And when he says to amar, it's usually about informing. This is not a grammatical answer. This is from Chazal, from our sages, that they explain it this way. So speak el Bnei Yisrael. What's that mean?
Speak to the children of Israel.
Good.
Speak unto the sons of Israel.
Yep. And that's good and correct. I usually would say children of Israel, just because this word banim. I don't know if you guys remember. I'm glad you mentioned that though. But there's a lot of Hebrew words. They have a high level meaning, like from 20,000 feet up, 10,000 meters up, or whatever. I guess it'd be more like 7,000 meters up. When you're looking down and you see that word by itself, it has a certain meaning. Okay. But if you take that same word and you pull it down and surround it with similar words that are of the same domain, right? Like brothers and sisters, or sons and daughters, then it takes a more specific meaning. This is something I want you to start getting used to, right? So the example that we used on Shabbat was, well, one of them was malacha, right? So malacha means work, right? And if you have the 7,000 meter high meaning, then it means any kind of work. It's an umbrella term. It can be digging ditches. It can be working on a computer in an air-conditioned office. It can be the actual project itself, like the design of the project. That's all malacha. It's everything, all-encompassing, right? So when we have when we have on the last Shabbat, it said te'asa malacha, and before that it said sheshit yamim, right? For 6 days, te'asa malacha. For 6 days, work shall be done, right? But if you pull that word down, we drag it down all the way down to the ground, and next to it, we have other types of work, other words that have to do with work, like say we have avodah, right? Avodah means work also, again, if it's in context of work, but this is more laborious. This was the Levites, they have avodah, right? They have to break down the mishkan and carry the poles, right? And carry the heavy stuff around. That's avodah, right? That's partly what they have to do. Avodah can also be like digging ditches and stuff. It doesn't have to be related to religious stuff necessarily, right? It can be digging ditches, etc., like that, okay? So when you have malacha in the same verse or in close proximity to avodah, it no longer means any kind of work, right? Now it means more specifically what we would call white-collar work, right? Again, you're in the air-conditioned office, you're typing something in Microsoft Excel on a computer, like that. That would be malacha, right? Or it could be the design, working on the design of the mishkan or something like that, okay? That would be malacha. So we see the same thing with mitzvah, right? Mitzvah, the 10,000 or 7,000 meter high view, mitzvah means commandment, right? Very general commandment, any kind of commandment, right? But then when you drag it down to the ground, not saying it's less holy or something, but we pull it down to be with other words that have to do with commandments. Say you have pikudim, like we had in the last parasha, right? And you've got chokim or chukot that occurs both masculine and feminine, and say you've got why can't I think of another word? Okay, well that's enough for now. So you have these different types of commandments. Oh, shoftim, sorry, mishpatim. You have mishpatim, right? The judgments. These are all dealing with types of commandments, ordinances, instructions, right? Now mitzvah no longer is an umbrella term, meaning all the commandments, right? We say there are 613 mitzvot when it's up high. It's encompassing all the mishpatim and the pikudim, right? And the chukim, right? And also the mitzvot. But when you pull it down and it's around those other words, then the Hebrew is more specific and it means a commandment for which a reason is given for the command, right? And the one I like to go to is honor your father and your mother. Why? So that your days will be lengthened, right? You get a reason for it, right? Like something that's going to happen if you keep the commandment, other than just straight obedience, okay? So this one, banim, and you're right, it's very common to say the sons of Israel, right? But the word banim, I want to point out that banim, the 7,000 meter high perspective is all-encompassing, means children. Children, yeah? So if we pull it down to the ground and you put benot near it, which is daughters, then we translate sons, right? Or if the context calls for some specific reason for us to understand it as sons, right? Then yeah. But in this case, we're clearly talking about the whole community. It's the whole community, so we're going to say children of Israel, right? We don't have daughters anywhere. It's not a commandment just being given, just to the men or something like this, okay? Although actually, I might need to correct myself. Maybe we do. We'll look at the rest of the verse. Maybe there is a reason to actually say sons. But usually the term when we're dealing with the collective is the children of Israel. Okay, all good?
Yeah.
Okay, that was just so I could rerun into your heads the idea of the high-level translation and the low-level translation of words. That many, many Hebrew words, you're going to find out, they have this high level when they're alone, umbrella meaning, and then when you pull them down and they're surrounded in context of other words, the nuance is different. Yeah, that's all. The nuance is different. Okay, great. Sin is another great example. Cheta, sin, right? Cheta is at the high level, can mean any kind of sin, right? Anything which is against what Hashem wants. But when you pull it down and you surround it with other types of sins like avon, which is intentional sin, right? Or pesha, which is a serious crime, breaking one of the 10 commandments, right? Or you have avara, which is a transgression, or shogega or shoga'a, it occurs both ways, which is a wandering, like an error, an accidental error, where you didn't know is out of ignorance usually, right? Like a wandering off the path. And then you have cheta, surrounded by that other stuff, now it means accidental sin, you see? So its more specific meaning is accidental sin, but when you take it up high and it's all alone, then it just means sin in general. You see? So this is a concept that I think will help you a lot if you start to get accustomed to this instead of being confused. Wait, why is this being translated this way over here and that way over there? It's all about, is it the high level or is it the low level? And I haven't seen any text that have ever really detailed this. It's just something that over time I finally started to realize myself. So I'm wanting to pass it on to you guys so you don't have to suffer like I did for a long time, banging your head on the desk. Why? Okay, so let's continue. Okay. Ve'amarta alehem. Okay, what's that mean? Ve'amarta alehem.
And speak
And he
thou unto them,
said, and he said unto them.
Okay, that's close.
and said,
Close. It's not he said. That would be that would be
and say.
amar. Yes, and say, right? So amarta.
and say unto them.
Good. Okay, so what's amarta by itself mean? If you just have amarta.
You said.
Good. And by the way, guys, please do not look at a translation when we're doing our live translation together, okay? Because I don't want you to be influenced. Because just like Rabbi Aryeh Kaplan used to like to say, the physicist and rabbi used to say, all translation is commentary, right? So if for my students, I recommend you do not use translation except when you really have to. And please do not use interlinear Bibles. That's just really going to handicap you. Right? If you use an interlinear, it's really going to handicap you. It's going to force you still to see the things the way that particular translator from that time when the scholarship was at a certain level, from that denomination, with his worldview, how he sees it. Instead, we're going to wrestle with the text, right? And apply your grammar knowledge. So, amarta. Amarta means you said, right? Right? Ta. Amarta. Right? Okay? Ve. What's the ve do? The vav here. What does this do to the time?
Conjunction.
Yes.
Vav conversive.
Yes. So vav conversive, it changes the time. So amarta means you said, ve'amarta means and you will say. So again, this doesn't happen in Ivrit Chadashah. So for those of you who know modern Hebrew, that could be a bit confusing if you're just getting into Tanachit now. So, but this is how it works in the Tanakh. Time is very different in Tanachit. In modern Hebrew, the sense of time has been bastardized by European languages, well, really by Indo-European languages. And so the Hebrew has been deformed in the way that it reports time to work the way those other languages work. Because that's where Jews live, right? We lived in Europe, we lived in these other places, so we were affected by those languages. But in the Bible, it doesn't work that way. It's really a different beast. It's a different dialect, biblical Hebrew, for sure. At least a different dialect, maybe a different language than modern Hebrew. Okay, the Marta, and you shall say, Alehem. What's that? Alehem.
Unto them.
Good, unto them. Okay. And by the way, anybody who's shy,
Question.
go. Yes.
Question, Robert. How come I thought if it's a vav with a shua, it's a conjunction?
It is.
But you said it's vav.
Okay, you're right. It is a conjunction, right? I just assumed you guys knew that one, so I was stepping a little deeper. You're exactly right.
Yeah.
It is a conjunction, but what's its specific function? It's doing more here, right? Look up here. Look at our very first letter in this book, right? Vav, right? So that's a conjunction. And, right? And, so you can say, and he called unto Moshe, right? Okay. But why is it he called? Yiqra means he will call, right? Or he is calling, right? So it is a conjunction, but it also expresses a specific grammatical function here other than just being a conjunction. It maintains the power of conjunction. Yes, you're totally correct. And it's a vav conversive, right? Meaning it swaps the time. It's doing both things. So we don't see if this was modern Hebrew and I saw this vayikra, I would think it meant and he will call. And he will call, right? But that's not how it works in Tanakh. In Tanakh it means and he called, past tense. You see? It changes this imperfect. Yiqra is imperfect. Diba? Remember your imperfects? Yiqra means he is calling or he will call, right? It's an ongoing action, okay? But that gets canceled with the vav conjunction here, with the vav consecutive, we call it. Some grammars call it vav conversive. Some call it vav consecutive. In the last couple decades, they've swayed away from calling it vav conversive for technical reasons among Semitic scholars. For us, I think it's best to say vav conversive because that's really what's happening. You can think of it's converting the time. It's no longer imperfect. Now it's perfect, right? Imperfect we usually render as past, right? So and he called. So the same thing here. This one's just the opposite. Amarta, is that perfect or imperfect? Amarta by itself.
Perfect.
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 Perfect. Okay, so if there's no vav, amarta means you said. right? Okay, but with the vav conversive, it means and you will say. It actually could technically mean and you are saying, right? Because it's changing it to imperfect. It's not changing it from past to future. It's changing it from perfect to imperfect. You understand? And imperfect in biblical Hebrew is an ongoing action. So it can be now, continuing, or it can be future, right? In modern, it can only mean future, right? So that's, are you guys with me?
Yep.
Okay. Now this is,
So the shua doesn't necessarily mean it's just a conjunction. It may be a vav conversive.
okay.
Do I get it right?
Okay, you're right. When it's a schwa, it doesn't always tell us. Sometimes it's just being the conjunction, right? But here's how you point it. If the verb is perfect, then it takes a schwa if we want to do vav conversive. You see? But it might not be.
Okay.
It might not be. It doesn't always swap it. You're right. It doesn't always swap it. Right? And in poetry and stuff, it gets even more convoluted, right? But if you want it to swap it, you make it a schwa. If it's followed by perfect. If it's followed by imperfect, then the pattern is put a patach or a comments under here, make it an ah, and put a dagesh in that first letter. Okay? If it's
Okay.
imperfect.
Yeah, gotcha.
Yeah, okay, good.
Thank
Yeah, nice question. And but just one more note on that. The dagesh does not always appear. If it is a phrase that occurs hundreds of times in the Bible, then the Masoretes decided, you know what, people should know there's a dagesh here. We don't need to. So, for example, vayehi, right? Yehi means it is or it will be. Vayehi means and it was or it happened, right? Or it came to pass, something like that, right? And this is in biblical narrative used all over the place. And so a lot of times in vayehi, they don't put the dagesh in the yod. So just in case you see that later, you're digging through your Tanakh, what? Rabbi said, blah, blah, you'll understand. No, it doesn't always happen. If it's a very, 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 it's kind of like, if it's a very common word, it's kind of like with your, those of you who have the Reader's Hebrew Bibles, where they put some words in gray, right? So
Yes.
what they'll do is, if it's a name, they only put it in gray if it's a proper name, if it occurs less than 100 times, right? Because the idea is, if it's Moshe, maybe we don't need a gray, right? It's in there enough times, right? Or if it's ohel, vavhe, I don't think we need to put that as a name. That people should recognize that when it's thousands of times, right? They should know. Okay, so similar thing. The Masoretes are thinking along the same way. Okay, nice. Any other questions? All right, let's continue. The amata alehem. What's alehem mean?
Unto them.
Unto them.
Unto them.
Very good. So el, it's a contraction, right? El, which is unto, and then hem. Hem, the pronominal suffix for them. Right? Okay. Adam, what's Adam mean?
Man.
Man. Yes, very literally, Adam means man. That's correct. But it can also have this kind of quasi idea of a person, like someone, if someone. Okay? So if a person or if a man, in German actually works, you can say, wenn man möchte etwas machen, right? When a guy wants to do something, right? Someone wants to do something, they say man, right? So that works. In English, it sounds a bit weird, but it's the same thing happening in German as in the Hebrew here. A man, like someone, Adam, ki yakriv mikem korban ladonai. Okay, so let's just skip the ki for a second, and let's do yakriv. What's yakriv? Anybody know this word?
To come near, to bring near.
Very nice. Very nice. That's right. So it's from karav, kof, reish, beit, which is to approach, or to come near. And this is the hefil form, just like Doc said, hefil. How did you recognize it was the hefil?
The yod and the kire.
Very nice, right? You see, guys, when you have your three root letters, number 1, number 2, number 3, and we insert a yod before the third root letter, that is a sign of the hefil binyan, the causative, to cause to do such and such, okay? It doesn't always have this causative meaning, but 85%, 90% of the time it does. It's pretty reliable, okay? So karav is to approach, but yakriv is he will cause to approach, like he will bring near. And I'm going to define it a little bit better down here when we get to it, okay? So just sit tight. Now the key, what does key mean? What gloss have you guys learned for key?
Because.
Okay, very good. Because, or what's another word it can mean?
For.
Yep, for, because, that, yep, exactly, all those things. Now, we're getting into some more advanced syntax. You're going to have to be flexible with key, okay? You're going to need to be flexible. Key can mean multiple things, and sometimes it means when, right? So here's here can mean when, okay? So let's make it mean when here. When Adam, a man, someone, yakriv, causes to come near, and I'll clarify this meaning more later. For now, I don't want to convolute things. Mikem, what's mikem?
From you.
That's right. You guys see it? It's mean, like up here, mean
Plural.
plus chem, right? Chem. Pronominal suffix, that's right, plural. Y'all, we would say in the South, y'all. Actually, English used to have a plural. You, in English, was plural. It already meant more than one person, you. Who knows how you said one person, like ata. How would you say ata? Yeah, ye, that's right, ye. That's why if you read your King James, ye of little faith, right? He's talking to one person. But you means everybody. Unfortunately, English got ruined also, and now you can mean anything. And so we have to say y'all in a dialect. So mean, cam became me cam from you all. So if a man, if somebody from you guys, when they cause to come near a what? A korban. What's korban?
Offering.
Offering, okay. And what's the
A
root?
near of
Yeah, that's right.
near.
You got it. A near offering. Everybody sees, look, it's the same root. You see what's happening in the Hebrew? Kuf, resh, beit. So the word for offering, it comes from the same root as to cause to come near, right? It's like with your offering, you're approaching Hashem. You're getting closer to God by presenting an offering, a korban. And does anybody understand why it's korban and not karban? It's korban. How do we know this is an O sound?
Rabbi,
Yes. Yes.
syllables, Rabbi. Close,
Accent.
unaccented, short.
Nice. Very good. Everybody sees that? What he said? So look, here's where the syllable breaks. It's closed, meaning there's got a consonant here. And here's our accent. Tipcha, that's the accent. So that means that this syllable is a closed, just like Kuya said, unaccented syllable. So that means it has to be a short vowel. Whenever you have a closed, meaning it's completed with a consonant, and it's unaccented, it has to take a short vowel. Okay, so that means this cannot be a long comment. It must be the short one. So korban, okay, ladonai for Adonai, for Hashem, right? Okay. Min habehema. What's mean?
From.
Okay.
From
Habehema. Who knows habehema?
Behemoth from the animals or
Yeah,
cattle.
yeah, that's right. It's interesting. In Russian language, we have a cognate from this. There's a word behemot, which is the plural from this. Behemot is the plural of behema, right? Behemot in Russian is it's like hippopotamus. It means hippopotamus. Isn't that funny? How words when they go from one language to another, they can change. Now, it can mean very general livestock, right? Because he's not going out to the forest to capture some wild animal. He's taking from what he owns, right? That's why it's an offering, right? It costs him something. It's something that he owns. So in general, livestock, you could translate that. I read some commentary some years back that mentioned that a Semitic scholar thought this came from a simpler word originally in Old Hebrew, which was, what was it? Hum, which was the idea that some animals could not speak. And so those are the ones that are, like you wouldn't say a monkey is a behema, right? Because he can kind of articulate some things or whatever. A bird would not be one because of sounds. I don't know. Anyway, that's just there. Take it if you will. So from livestock, min habakar. What's bakar?
Choose. The bakar is to choose.
Oh, you're thinking Bachar.
Cattle.
Bachar with a
Herd.
chait.
No.
Yeah.
No, sorry.
It's okay. It's okay.
That's bakar to choose is cat
Yes.
and not cow.
That's right. That's right.
Oh,
That's right. And
bakar.
yep.
Bakar.
Yay, internet's working great, Baruch Hashem. I just want to say real quickly, Baruch Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher shomea tefillah. That's blessed are you, Lord our God, King of the universe, who answers prayer. And I'm just going to put a quick request through. Hold on, this is something real quick. Sit tight just for a sec. I need to. Okay, so let's continue. Okay, so bakar, this means cattle, like bovids. Bovids.
Cattle.
Yeah, like a bakar, if it's singular form like this and not being used collectively, then it would mean a bull. But when it's plural like this, then it's like cattle, right? Like bovids, something like that. Okay. I didn't mean to do that note yet. Hold on. Go back. Computer, don't want to erase it. You've seen it already. Okay. Umin hat son. What's son?
Sheep.
Sheep, good. And why over here? Why is it oo?
A sheep.
Very good. And why is it oo mean instead of vet mean? What's the rule?
Bump.
Bump
That's
schwa.
right. Bump
Bump schwa.
schwa, exactly. The bump schwa rule.
Labials.
Yep. So and from or from the sheep. Takrivu. So I want to break down the hefel of karav a little bit more. Let's put that note back up there then. Not that one. This one. Computer's not cooperating. Come on. Oh, there it is. Okay. Okay. So let's take a look at my note here. So karav in the hefel literally means to cause to approach, to draw near. So a lot of times in the priestly literature, you can interpret this as to present, right? To present, i.e., an offering. So lehakriv korban means to present an offering. You see, to present, like to present before the Lord, something like that. Is everybody with me on that? You got it? So you understand the mechanics of what's happening in the Hebrew. So if any of you're going to give a sermon or a talk or a little Dvar Torah or something, or you're just explaining to people, then you can come back down into the literal meaning. That might be interesting to them. But we take it to a higher level. We understand it only means to present, right? We don't have to every time render, he caused to come near, right? Instead, he presented, right? Only if you're giving like a drosh or something, then maybe you want to get down a bit lower. And it'll make it interesting to people to see how the language is working, right? With the whole takrivu et korban, right? With the same root and all that stuff. Okay. What's korban lechem mean? Pardon me, korban chem?
Your of
Yeah, your offering, right? You guys
your of
see the suffix, right? Chem?
comment.
Okay. Yes.
Comment.
Yes.
In your drush yesterday about Romans 12:1, the parakletos, which are rather that has the idea of the karab in Hebrew to present your body.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely. Yep. Paul is using priestly language, Levitical language there. And it just kind of lost to us in the Greek. But that's a very good observation. Yes, exactly. Yep. To present.
And what was the Greek use in for present? I forgot.
Yeah. Let me try to remember. It's let's see, that verse says kalao. My Greek is much better in passive memory. So when I read it, I understand it. But when I want to present you the word, it's hard for me to produce it. Let me think just for a sec.
Yeah, sorry.
It's no, it's fine. It's fine. Maps to it needs to get to that next level. Here, let me look it up real quick in the Greek. Hold on. Let's see. It's a nice question. Change resource. NA28. That's the Nessel Allen whatever. Okay, hold on. Let's see. Change resource. NA28. Okay. Oops, I brought up the critical apparatus instead of the this one. Okay. We do. Okay. Let's see. All right. Para cada uma adelphoi diaton oiktirmon tu seu paratesai. Okay, yeah. So the paratesai, pardon, paratesai. It's interesting. So para means like towards, right? And stesai, it's from steamai, which is to take one stand, which actually maps to natsav in Hebrew. Natsav, like to take one stand. Let's see. Yeah. So this is what would map to our karav in the Hebrew, the hefel of karav, the hikriv. So the Greek word there is parastįsαι, right? The para has different meanings depending on how it's used. When it's a standalone word, like it depends on the case ending of the following word, like genitive, nominative, accusative, however that word's being used. But when it's used with a verb that has to do with something with motion, then it means direction towards, right? So this is where we get from the hikriv in the Greek, in the Hebrew, right? You're causing to come near, so that's the para. That's the para. And then the stesai, that's the future from steamai or stei, which is to natsav actually in the Hebrew, so to take one stand. So it's actually it's a combination of those two. So come forward to take your stand. And then the deeper meaning to it that was really neat is whenever you see Natsav or Yatsav, we're taught in the Mechilta, the Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, that this should be, this indicates the presence of Ruach Haqodesh, right? So you can even dig deeper in that and say that when we're coming near and taking our stand, right? So there's a little bit extra to it rather than just the Greek. When we're coming near and taking our stand, i.e. we're presenting. I'm not sure how the English usually renders, how the translations do, but this is just, I'm looking just at the Greek right now, not at English, so I don't know. But this is what would be like to present, right? But it's like the idea is present and you're taking a stand. You're steamai also. It's a compound word. Para plus steamai, right? So coming near, bringing near, and also natsav, taking one stand actually. Did that answer your question? Yeah, okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure. Nice question. I'm going to keep that Greek up on the tablet just in case you want to know some. Yeah, nice. Okay, so let's see. Where were we? Okay. Et korbanchem, your offerings. Okay, and we see the syllable division. We have two silent schwas, right? Korbanchem. As I almost messed up and said korban nechem, but nope, korbanchem. Verse Gimel 3. Im olah korbano min habakar zachar tamim yakrivenu. Okay, what does im mean, guys? Im.
If
Good. If. And hold on, I gotta send a note real quick. Give me just a second. Okay, sorry about that. If olah, what's an olah?
Whole burnt
A
offering.
whole burnt offering, right? And who remembers why we call it a whole burnt offering or holy burnt offering?
Burns up and
because
everything goes.
it ascends
Yes, you're both
unto
correct.
Yahweh.
You're both
It
correct,
ascends.
exactly. It burns up and it all goes up. It's not a shelim, right? It's not the whole community, the family and the priest and Adonai are eating it, right? It's not a chata'at, a purification offering, oftentimes rendered sin offering. It's not that where the priest eats it. This is something totally for Hashem. It all gets burnt up and goes up to him. So it's got this idea of something that's going up, right? So that's, again, when you bring it down to the Hebrew, we wouldn't want to call this an ascension offering or anything, right? Because really it's wholly burnt, right? But if you're going to give a sermon on it or a talk, it's nice to get into the word and why. It's something you've fully dedicated it to Hashem. You don't get anything from it. It's just for him. Okay? Korbano. Okay, what's korbano mean?
His offering.
Nice. His offering. Is my fan too loud? I hear it rattling. I don't know if you guys hear that in the microphone. I think I fixed it. Okay.
No, you're fine.
Okay, Baruch
A
Hashem.
bit.
Okay, Baruch Hashem. I think I fixed it. Okay, korban, so that's offering, and then his, right? Remember your suffixes. Min habakar, so from the cattle. Zachar, what's zachar mean? Anybody know this word?
Male.
Yes, a male.
Remember.
Okay.
Male.
This it sounds the same as remember, but this one is a male. This is a male. Zachar. Tamim, what's tamim mean?
Clean.
Perfect. Innocent.
Without blemish. Yeah, it can mean innocent. That's true. Yep, in context, all in context, right? So in this case, without blemish, right? It's not injured. There's not something wrong with it. In other words, you don't give Hashem, the worst quality of what you have. You give him the best quality, right? So it's zachar tamim. Okay, yakrivenu. There's a suffix on this verb, so let him present nu. Let him present it. Let him present it. Okay. All right. El petach. El, what's el mean?
Unto.
Petach. Who knows petach?
Yeah. Question.
Okay.
Door.
Yes.
Door.
Rabbi.
Yeah, that's right. It's like a door. It's from the verb patach. Hold on just a sec. Patach is to open. Then we get this word susi in Hebrew is mafteach, right? It's something that helps you to patach, to open. It's a key. Okay, go ahead. Yeah, what's the question?
Yeah. The yakribenu, it's the offering it. The shurek here is how come it's not O.
Yeah, that's a good question. So really what's happening is, keep in mind, consonantally, it's the same thing as O, right? U and O, they're both vav, right? Wow, they're both wow in ancient days, right? So it's a bit technical, but what's happening is, it still is a wow, right? So we still know it's him, but then, let me change color, we have what's called a connecting helper, and that's the noon, right? So the noon here is just making it easier to pronounce, right? It doesn't want to draw. Come on, draw. There we go. The noon is just helping it to pronounce. Okay, does that help a little bit?
Yeah.
Okay.
The dagesh in noon is a dagesh forte.
Yes, it is.
Thank you.
Yep. And that's just because it made it easier to pronounce that way. Yakrivenu, right? It used to be like this. Yakrivenu. My friend Esau, whose native language is Arabic, he's our Messianic pal from Syria, right? And he comments, he was talking about something in Syriac before, which is the late form. It's the living language of Aramaic today. It's called Syriac, right? That's not Arabic, it's Syriac. And so he's helping us to learn Syriac, and he was explaining that. Well, he said there's a couple forms. I said, why are you putting a noon at the end? And it's a similar phenomena. So sometimes they just add the noon to make it easier to say, even if there's no suffix in that Semitic language. So we see a similar phenomenon happening here in the Hebrew, where the noon is just added because it's easier to say. Yeah. Okay. El petach, ohel. So this is a construct form. The opening of the tent, literally, is what that means, right? So the door of the tent. Oh, pardon me. Ohel moed. It's a long construct chain. Petach, ohel moed. The opening of, or the entrance of the tent of meeting. I think I'd rather say entrance than door, because we have a separate word for door. It's delet, right? In Hebrew, the door is literally when it's fastened to the structure, right? That's the door. It has a kind of more concrete meaning. Okay? Yakriv oto lir sono lifnei Adonai. Okay, yakriv oto, what's that mean?
And he will cause to bring it
Yep,
near.
yep, very good. Okay, and now it gets a bit tricky. This lir sono, it's a little bit idiomatic. So, ratzon means will, favor, right? Like when we say the Yevarecha Hashem Elokech, wait, Yevarecha Adonai Yismarecha, right? For the Aaronic benediction, right? At the end, what does the Kahal say? They say, Ken Yehi Ratzon, may it be the will, right? Really his will, right? So it's like Ratzon there is a short form of Retzono, right? And then we have the next blessing, and then people say, Ken Yehi Ratzon, right? So Ratzon, it means like will, desire, right? Something like that. So Retzono is his will, his desire, like what he wants, right? This is related to the Hebrew verb ratzah with the hey at the end, like ma'ata rotze, what do you want, right? So lirtzono literally means for his will, right? But it's kind of idiomatic to make it make sense in English. You just need to know as he desires. It's something like this, right? So he brings it to the opening of the tent of meeting. He presents it as he desires the Adonai before Adonai. Verse Dalet. V'samach yado. Oh yes, go ahead.
Wait, the lirtsono is referring to the one offering, or is it the will of Adonai?
Yeah, that's a very good question. You could actually go deeper and say maybe it's Hashem, but it's the offerer in this case, the one presenting the offering, because that's the most direct antecedent, right? If we look back, it's all the way back to I think to Adam we need, right? Up here, Adam, somebody, and then the somebody keeps influencing each verse after that, right? Each verse after that, each verse after that. Yep. Before Adonai, also we have this. It's juxtaposed with Lifnei Adonai, so I'd say it's probably not Adonai, right? Because how Adonai wants before Adonai, right? So I don't think that's the case. But maybe you could go a bit deeper. Maybe there's something to that. Sometimes you have ambiguity, right? So you're not so sure. But I think it's got to be the offerer here. Lifnei Adonai, before Adonai. Verse Dalet, Samach. Does anybody know Samach, this verb? Samach.
Samach, to rejoice.
Oh, you're thinking okay, it sounds the same what you're saying, but that's spelled differently. That's with a scene.
Rabbi, lay.
Huh?
Lay. It's like putting hand.
That's right. Yeah, right. It can mean to set hands, But really, in a lot of translations, they do think it means like to lay, right? Like to set the hands. But I have a great commentary that I read a few years back from the scholar Jacob Milgram. This is the Yale Anchor Bible commentary on this particular. Well, he did his own commentary, and then it was absorbed by them. And he's kind of recognized as a really great expert on the vocabulary of Leviticus. He has another book that's just on the vocabulary of Leviticus. And he says that this was actually to lean, right? So the priests, they would put force on the animal's head, right? So that's kind of interesting. It interprets differently than just laying on the hands, because we get another word from this in Hebrew. Have you ever heard of smicha? Smicha? Smicha means ordination, right? So like rabbi or whatever might be ordained, right? You have a smicha, right? And it comes from the laying out of hands, but really it should have been the leaning of the hands, like pushing, right? So at least in this context, they're pushing, right? I guess maybe imparting the guilt or something, right? Like pushing with the hands. And something that's interesting that they're using their hands, this is just my own observation, is that the hands, if you read in the Nach and you read about like wicked people, like Queen Jezebel, you guys know about her? Achav's wife, Jezebel, she had Naboth murdered so her husband could have his vineyard, and all his sons were murdered too. Just they claimed they were idolaters, and so they got executed for idolatry when they were innocent. Just really doing nasty things. She liked the prophets of Baal. She murdered many of the prophets of Adonai. And anyway, this wicked queen Jezebel, she when she dies, the dogs ate up her body. They ate up her body according to a prophecy, and it happened. Except they did not eat the cuff. They didn't eat the palms of her hands, right? And it's interesting, reading through scripture, it almost seems like scripture seems to imply that there is guilt, the avon, is stored up in the cuff. And so you can see the opposite of this in the Psalms. And King David says, he doesn't just say, I lift up my hands. He says, I lift up kapai, my palms to you, right? Expressing innocence, right? Showing he's innocent, right? He's been purged of his sin, etc., etc., etc. And so here you take the palm of the hands then. This is just, again, I could be wrong. This is my understanding. You take the palm of the hands and you combine that with what Milgram's saying, that they would lean on the animal. So I think the idea is like they're pushing the avon, they're pushing the guilt, transferring it over to the animal. Right? There's at least metaphorically that's what's happening. So samach yado means he leaned his hand, but ve samach yado, what's that mean? What's the ve mean?
And he will.
Yes.
Vav conversive.
That's right, vav conversive. And he will lean his hand. Al rosh, what's that? Al rosh?
Upon head.
Good. Okay, and that's a construct. And this little guy is telling you he's probably construct. Monach, rosh, ha'olah, the head of the olah, right? Of the whole burnt offering. It's still standing, it's still alive, right? So, okay. Okay, then yotza lo lechaper alive. Okay. So let's see. Nirtza. So then nirtza. Let's see. This is ratza is related to this word up here. So you have kind of an interesting. Go ahead.
Is this mif'al passive, so it will be a paid word for him?
Yes. This is a nifal form of it. Very good. Nifal. And the verb, it's related. You see the word that's in black with the glowing white letters around it? You guys all see that?
Where is that?
Just one line up. Okay, it's right here. Liatsono. You see this one? Yeah. Okay. So in this one, which we translated as he desires, or when it's pleasing, something like that, right? Okay. This is as he desires. So ratza, you're right. It's nifal. The noon is telling us nifal. Ratza, as I mentioned, ani rotze in Hebrew means I want, right? I desire, right? Like. So this is the passive. So it is desirable. It is pleasing, right? So, and it is pleasing, lo, to him. Now this him, this is referring to Hashem, right? Right? Because we just had Hashem. We have a new antecedent, right? It's pleasing to him. Then what's going to happen? Lechaper alive. What's kaper mean? Who knows what kaper means?
To cover.
That's right. This is from the kal. Kal is kafar, is to cover, which is funny because in Arabic, kafar I think is like someone who doesn't have faith is a kafar. But in Hebrew, kafar is to cover, and kippur, this is where we get Yom HaKippurim, the Day of Atonement, right?
Yes.
So you're right. On a very literal level, it's covering, but it's also atoning is the deeper metaphor. And this is a very interesting word. It turns out that this goes also into Old Akkadian. In Akkadian, another Semitic language, it means to purge, which is fascinating because when someone sins, they bring a chata'at offering, a purification offering to purify themselves. In this case, we're having a purgation, like a purgation of the sin. So it's very interesting, I think. So it could be to purge as well. You can think of it as to purge. So to atone, alive. What's alive mean?
He's alive. He's
What's al?
that is his offering.
What's al? What's
Unto.
nope? That's L with an aleph. What's al with an ayin? Al.
Ah. Upon.
Upon. Very good. Upon.
Or upon.
Nice, nice. And then the vav.
Him.
Yeah. What's the vav? Is his, right? So literally over him, right? So just like, oh man, my computer's freezing. Sorry, I don't know why the screen went white. I think PowerPoint crashed. It crashed. Okay, that's okay. We can keep talking about it while we wait for PowerPoint to come back to the land of the living. Oh man. So the alive. So it's just like Doc was saying. The base meaning of kafar is to cover, right? To cover, and so to cover alive over him, right? It's going to cover him instead. When Hashem looks at him, he's not going to see him. Instead, he's going to see this offering, right? He's going to see the innocent animal that had everything transferred to it, right? Just like today, it's very useful for us at night when you're about to go to bed, or if you like, you can start in the morning, but I like to go to sleep innocent. So when you at night, you confess to Hashem if you know anything that you did wrong, and if you don't, just say, please don't look at me. Instead, look at the blood of the Mashiach, right? Look at the offering that was given, right? Instead, in my place. Okay, PowerPoint's warming back up.
Kafir is a PL form. Kafir is a PL form.
Yes, kiper, yep. To completely cover. Kafar is to cover, and kiper is like to completely cover, right? It's got an intense meaning of it, over it. Which is, you can see why it could mean to purge, right? It could have this meaning, like I said, from the Akkadian, to purge.
Question.
Yes.
The one you're recommending for the better lexicon is it the halot?
Yes, halot. Yeah, halot's really.
That's the better one.
Yeah, halot is, it's really the best. You see halot quoted all over the place in scholarly literature because halot, it takes into account the discoveries of the Ugaritic language, and Ugaritic is the closest language to biblical Hebrew that we know about. Closer than Aramaic, closer than Old Southern Arabic, closer than Akkadian, closer than any of the other stuff, right, is Ugaritic actually. And we didn't even know it existed until, there were some theories maybe, but we didn't know until it was discovered in the 1920s by a Syrian farmer.
Which is which? Did Hebrew arose from Aramaic or vice versa?
Okay. All of the Semitic languages came from Old Hebrew. Okay, this is my understanding of it, Old Hebrew. If you look at liberal scholarship, what they will call that is Old Semitic. So all I'm doing is I say Old Semitic, that's Hebrew. That's Old Hebrew, or Ancient Hebrew, right? So Aramaic came from Ancient Hebrew. Biblical Hebrew, what we call SBH, Standard Biblical Hebrew. Remember, when we read the Bible, not to scare you guys, but remember, it's written over 1,000 years, right? It's written over 1,000 years. So you have dialects. I was just reading last week in 2 Kings, near the end of 2 Kings, I think around chapter 19 or so. I'm not sure. Anyway, near the end of 2 Kings, it's interesting. You've got this jerk who's wanting to invade Judah, and he's talking to the people. He's talking to the righteous king. He's shouting out in Hebrew. He's speaking Hebrew, which is not his own language, right? Trying to scare the inhabitants, right? You're going to eat your own dung, and all this stuff's going to happen. Yeah, that's right. Nice, very nice. Yep. And what's funny is his servants say, "Don't talk in Yehudit. Speak in our language. Don't speak in Yehudit. We don't understand you, right?" And so it's interesting. Instead of Ivrit, the Bible calls the language of the book of 2 Kings Yehudit, the language of the Yehudis, the language of the Jews, of the Judeans. So it's kind of interesting. So even then, you have this identification of that dialect of the Bible as Yehudit, right, as Judahite or something like that. I'm not sure how you put that into English, really. And so the thing is, in the Bible, you do have different dialects, right? and you have some. Although what's good is the scribes, every once in a while they kind of standardize, right? So they kind of update the text into what we call SBH, Standard Biblical Hebrew. But it doesn't happen everywhere. There's stuff that survives, things that survive, little loan words that pop up. So yeah. Okay, did that answer your question?
Yep.
Oh,
Thank you.
okay, great. So let's see here. Okay, so let's finish this slide. Sorry about the PowerPoint crash. So now I lost my count and my time. I think we're about 50 minutes into this. Let me check to see how we're doing on time. Okay. All right. We started about 4:40. Right? Okay, so we're an hour in. Okay, great. Okay. Just a sec. PowerPoint's frozen. I'm sorry. No, do not restart the program. Wait. All right. So let's see. Verse Hey. V'shachat et ben habakal lefnei Adonai. Shachat. Do you guys know this word? We have a shochet. A shochet is a butcher. So what do you think the verb shachat means?
Where is that?
Slaughter.
That's right. Verse Hey.
Kill.
Yep. And he shall slaughter Ben Habakar, so the bull, a young bullock, right? Literally son of the bull. Lifnei Adonai, before Adonai. Vehikrivu Bnei Aharon HaKohanim et Hadam. V'zolku et Hadam al HaMizbeach Saviv. Asher Petach Ohel Moed. Okay. So you shall slaughter the young bullock before Adonai, and he shall present, and they will present, who? The Bnei Aharon. Who's that? Bnei Aharon.
Sons.
Yep.
Son of Aaron.
Good. The sons of Aaron. And see, in this case, we know definitely it's sons because we knew that there were no female priests, right? So we know the sons of Aaron, they would present. Oh, here we have more. The sons of Aaron, HaKohanim. What's Kohanim mean?
The priest.
The priests. They would hikrivu. And look, it's vowel consecutive again. They would present et Hadam. What's Hadam?
The blood.
The blood, good. The zaraku et hadam. Okay, you probably don't know this word. Zarak is to sprinkle. Like you got something on your finger or on a hyssop, and it's, sorry about the animation. It's to sprinkle, yeah? To sprinkle. Okay, hold on. I lost my pointer. Where is he? Oh, it went invisible. My pointer's invisible. Why? Okay, it's back. Yay. Okay, and they will sprinkle et hadam, the blood, al hamizbeach. What's that mean? Al hamizbeach.
Upon the
altar.
Very good. Upon the altar. Saviv. Do you guys know this word saviv? So, saviv, do you know what a dreidel is? Dreidel? Dreidel. At Hanukkah.
Sevivon.
Yes, the top.
Yeah, that's right.
The Sevivon.
Yeah, that's right. Svivon, correct. So the Ashkenazi word is dreidel. This is from Yiddish. But Kuyas said it right in Hebrew. In Hebrew, it's svivon. Svivon, because it's something that's savavs. It goes around. So that's this verb here, saviv. So they will sprinkle it on the altar, saviv, all around. Asher, which is petach ohel moed, which is at the petach ohel moed, the opening of the tent of meeting, right? It's at that altar. Okay, let's go to our next slide. Oh yeah, just showing that vav can mean when. Are you guys enjoying this? I hope you're liking it. I mean, we're deep in the vocab, right? But I don't want you to be so scared of Leviticus.
Yeah.
All right, verse Vav. Vehivshit et ha'olah. Okay, so this word, peshit, it's a he fill form. It means to strip off, literally, right? Like, so if there's a battle, then afterwards the people would strip off the enemy soldiers, meaning they're looting them, right? They're taking the belongings off of them. It can also mean to undress, right? Like if someone's in the room, they're going to undress. But here, it's something like to flay, according to Talmud Tractate Yoma. So to flay the olah, they'll flay the olah, like they'll remove the outer part of the olah. But nitach otah, you don't know this word. Nitach means to chop up, right? To make into netachim. Netachim are pieces, right? So netachim, make it into pieces. Otah. Why is there a hey with a mapik here? Why is it otah? What's that ah?
it's referring to the olah.
Yeah, that's right. Everybody got that? Olah is feminine, right? So it's referring to the olah. Right, let me just, this goes over here. Oh, I didn't want to draw it. Come on. Oh, you can do it. Oh, now it's doing it. Okay, great. Okay. That's the her. Chop her up, right, is really what it's saying in the Hebrew. Lin pacheha, into pieces. Okay, this is from this verb. It's a noun from this verb. Verse 7. Okay. V'notnu b'nei Aharon. Actually, it's not tenu, sorry. There's not a metek there. V'natenu b'nei Aharon hakohen eish al hamizbeach. Okay. So you guys have learned natan means to give, right? That's the gloss. But what else can natan mean? Does anybody remember? I've mentioned before. In the priestly literature, it often has this other meaning. Natan. Who remembers what natan can mean? Oh, my animations are out of order. Sorry. Not kidney sweat. Not that. Oh, where's my... Oh, I might have deleted it back. I remember making that. Okay, I might have deleted it.
Set.
Yeah, it means to set or to place. That's right. Oh, there it is. It just was way out of order. Sorry. We've learned the common gloss for this to give, but context is king, and the priestly writings often it means to place or to set. Right? Okay, so we'll just leave those there.
Disappeared again.
Yeah, I'll put it back up. Maybe we'll just leave it out and we'll let it, because I don't want to confuse you with all the things. You can just remember it means to set or to place. Yeah, I have my animations out of order. Okay, so then the Bnei Aharon, the sons of Aaron, HaKohen, the priest, will set Eish al HaMizbeach. What's Eish? Eish.
Fire.
Right.
Fire
Good. Fire al HaMizbeach.
on the
Upon the
altar.
altar.
Good. Good. On the altar. The Arachu Eitzim al Ha'esh. Okay. Who knows this word Arach? Arach. Or you've seen it somewhere maybe. Arach. Have you ever heard of the Shulchan Aruch? The Shulchan Aruch? This is the compendium of all the 613 laws. It's called the order of the table, really, like the Shulchan Aruch. So Arach is to set an order, right? You can actually have an Arucha as like a battle array. We actually get also an Erech is an estimation, like an estimated value, right? You're setting the thing in order, how much it's worth. Maybe you weighed it or whatever. So Arach means to set in order, right? To organize. So the Arachu means they organized. The Arachu means and they will organize. Eitzim. What's Eitzim mean?
Trees.
It can mean trees,
Wood.
and in this context, wood. Exactly.
Trees.
Yep.
Wood.
Good. Very good.
Wood.
So again, we have the 20,000 foot meaning, right? If you're up in the sky, 20,000 feet, it means trees. Yeah. And then we come down into our context down below, then it means wood. See, this happens a lot with Hebrew vocab. Okay. So they will organize the wood al ha'esh. What's that mean?
Upon the fire.
Very
On
good.
the fire.
Very nice. Upon the fire. Good. All right. Verse 8. The Arahu b'nei Aharon.
I recommend
What? Yes, go ahead.
the rabbi.
Yes. Tom, go ahead.
Isn't it that the direct object al ha'esh, that is a definite noun, direct object?
Okay. That's a good question. Very good question. Okay, so the question is upon the fire a definite direct object, right? So would we need the definite direct object marker? I think is what he's getting at. Would we need it? And it's actually not. The object of being arranged is the wood, right? It's wood, right? The arahu eitzim,
Yeah.
right? But is this definite or indefinite? Eitzim. Definite or indefinite?
Yes.
It's indefinite, right? So that's why you don't need et.
Definite. Yeah.
See? You see?
Because the ha.
Yeah, genau.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. That's right. Ha is the definite.
That's right. Good question. So if it was ha eitzim, then we need et. It'd be ve'arachu et ha eitzim. Okay? Very good. Okay? Al ha'esh, upon the fire. Okay? This is what we call, this is a dangling modifier or indirect object in this case. Okay? So let's see.
Thank you, Rabbi. Thank you.
Yeah, very good question. I'm glad you brought attention to that. Okay, let's see. Chet. Ve'arechu b'nei Aharon hakohanim. Then, I'm going to say then the Bnei Aharon HaKohanim, what's that mean? Anybody? Bnei Aharon HaKohanim?
Sons of Aaron the
The
priest.
sons of Aaron the priest.
Good. The priests, right? Hard to say with the S, yep. They shall arrange. And look, now we have et, Tom. There's et you're looking for before. Et hanetachim. They shall arrange the pieces. That's this word up here, right? From the verb nitach, to chop into pieces. So this is the pieces of the olah, right? It's too big to carry, right? So they're chopping it up now into pieces. And now they'll arrange the pieces. Et harosh. What's that mean? Harosh.
The head.
Nice. The head.
It.
Et hapared. Okay, this is, I don't expect you to know this word. This is kind of specific. This is it's actually pered, but because it has the etnachta, it's lengthened the short sigol into a long vowel comments. So usually it's pered is the word pered. Pered means kidney sweat. It's like the fat from the kidneys, okay? Very specific. And this is explained in Mishna Tamid, chapter 4, verse 12, in our oral law, explains what this is. So this is the fat from the kidney. Al ha'etzim. Okay, what's that mean?
Upon the wood.
Upon the wood.
Wood.
Asher, yeah, woods. You're right. Yeah, woods. So maybe like wood pieces or the firewoods. Asher, which, right? The relative pronoun, which. Al ha'esh,
Upon the fire.
Asher,
Which
al hamazbeach.
upon the altar.
Nice. Verse 10. Any questions so far, guys? You getting it? Our immersive learning, right? Hopefully your spirits are absorbing, and this is going to be easier next time you see this. Verse 10. Vikirbu. And this should be a ooh, it's hard to see from the glowing I put on there. Vikirbo, pardon me. Ukera'aiv yechatz b'mayim. Okay, so let's look at this part. Look, again we have this root, the shorish. Kof, or kuf, how do you like to call that?
And
Beish, be. Yeah, go ahead.
karav.
Yep, it's like the verb karav.
Karav.
It's from the verb
Yeah.
karav, you're right. But this is another noun. It's a different noun, actually. So it's hard to see here because when you put the suffix at the end of this noun, it changed its spelling, right? So this is actually the word kerev, okay? And kerev means the innards. Here's what it looks like. You see how it's spelled? Kerev, i.e. the parts that are very near, right? That's why they're called the kerev. Like the kishki, like the intestines, that kind of stuff, the inner parts, okay? The inside of the beast. People also have kerev, right? David, sometimes in the Psalms, he talks about kerovai, my innards, right? And how he's feeling. The feelings are being directed there towards his innards. Or sometimes his kiliotayim, right? His kidneys are where the seat of the emotions are, right? Have you ever had like you're nervous and you have a feeling in your stomach, right? When you're nervous, right? You can understand that this is why our ancestors, they refer to like the innards as being the seat of the emotions, right? It's not the heart, it's not the lev, right? So this is a mistake that happens in translation when we render very literally a literal translation, right? A lot of times people, they think that literal is always best, right, when translating, but it is not always best if you're trying to convey the idea, right? So if you take the Hebrew word lev or levav and you always render that as heart, as many English translations do, they're trying to be faithful to the text. I get it. But the person who's reading in English will not get the full idea in the Hebrew. The lev is not the emotion. It's not the heart, right? If you say, my heart is to you, Adonai, right? Or like David says in Psalm 51, he says, lev tahor berat li, right? A pure heart, literally, create in me. He's not saying like, give me good emotions. He's saying my mind. Give me a pure mind. I want to have the mind of Mashiach. I don't want to have these sinful thoughts. I don't want to, be corrupted in my mind. I don't want the Yetzer Hara, the evil inclination, affecting my lev, affecting my mind. You see? The emotions are the innards for the human. Oftentimes the kidneys, but sometimes just innards in general. Because that's where you feel it. If you're nervous or, oh my gosh. Did you guys hear that? I'm sorry. Hold on, I didn't realize I had that on. Just a second. Let me just shut that off. Boom. All right, great. Okay. So in the case of the animal, we're not talking about the emotions, but just so you know, this is one reason we have to be very careful not to render lev as heart into English, because the European cultures understand the heart to be the seat of the emotions, right? Right? Someone gives their heart to somebody else or whatever. This was not the biblical Hebrew, the ancient Near Eastern culture's way of understanding emotions. The heart is the mind, right? Sometimes the will. When Pharaoh's heart is hardened, it doesn't mean necessarily he's getting angry or something. It means his resolve is being hardened, right? His mind is being hardened, right? He's not allowing for other options anymore. Okay, so kerev means innards. So the kirbo, what's that mean then? It's not a verb, kerev. It's kerev, a noun. It's very good. It's innards, good, and it's innards. The chera'av. Now notice it. Why is it a masculine it? Up above we had a mapik referring, and that was feminine, right? Otah, right? That's feminine suffix. Why? We're talking about the same thing now, kind of. Why is it masculine ending? Anybody know what's going on? Because this is getting more specific. It's pointing back to Pered, right? It's pointing back to the Ben Bakar, right? The thing that we chopped up into pieces, right? We're no longer talking generally about the concept of the olah, right? Although this is part of the olah, it's no longer just the olah. If we're just talking olah, that's feminine. But once we come down, we're talking about the bull, right? The young bullock, and it's being charged up. Now it's masculine, okay? So, and its innards, meaning the bullock's innards. Uchera'av. Okay, there's another word. Okay, we got that there finally. There we go. I need to just check my animation orders sometimes. Well, this is the fibula. While it's trying to load, I'll just tell you. Oh, there we go. Chera, right? The lower leg, the fibula. That's what echera is, okay? Yichatz. What does rachatz mean? Anybody know? Rachatz. Wash. Yichatz. He will wash, right? So meaning the priest.
He will wash.
That's right. The priest will wash. And notice it's singular. It's understood that one priest can do this duty. Sometimes you'll see in Leviticus, the verbs will sometimes be plural, sometimes they'll be singular. And so you can actually read into that whether the duty was too much work for one priest or whether it's something that many priests needed to do or if one could do it. Right? So here it's understood a single priest, even though we had the Bnei Aharon, the sons of Aaron, HaKohanim, the priests, plural, this particular duty could be done by one priest. All of that is captured, that instruction, by this one single verb. And our rabbis, our sages, they understand that. It's in the singular, so that means one priest could do this duty, right? Bamayim. What's bamayim mean?
In water.
In water.
In the water.
In water.
In water. In
In
water.
the water.
Very good. In water.
Parable preposition.
That's right. Very good. Nice.
It's a parable preposition.
That's right. Inseparable preposition, bait. Very good. And literally it says in the water, right? Or with the water, right? Because we have the and we have the dagesh remaining from ha, right? So the idea is there's some specific water that they're using here. It's specified. It's hamayim, right? Okay. Vehiktir hakohen et hakol hamizbecha. Okay, this is interesting. Hamizbecha. I'm going to stop here instead of going to the end of the verse, just because it's enough. Hiktir. Who knows what this means? So I'll give you a hint. Oh, does somebody know? Don't look at translations, okay? Just let's work through it together. Who knows what this means? Hiktil.
It's a hip-feel form
Good.
of Qatar.
Like in
Good. See, that's very
like ketoret.
yes, like ketoret. Yes, very nice. It's related to ketoret, right? So you're both right. So Doc, notice even see you can see a lot of stuff. Even if you don't know the word, you notice these both tell us it's a he-feel form to cause to do something, right? And then the other brother mentioned ketoret, right? So we have a phrase. Oftentimes we get ketoret samim, right, which is like the incense smoke, right? The smoke of the samim, of the incense. So if you both put your heads together, even if you don't know this verb, you can figure it out. Ketoret samim means the incense smoke, right? Samim are spices, right? So ketoret must be the smoke, right? The thick smoke, the spice smoke. So then that has to be related to this verb. And Doc mentioned it's a he-fil, so to cause to. So what do you think it means? Hiktir. To cause to what?
being smoke,
Yeah, yeah,
offering cause
exactly,
being smoke fire.
exactly. That's beautiful. You guys did great. See, check it out. So already with the grammar that you know and knowing some other words, you can already, without looking in a lexicon, in context, figure out what some things mean, even if you haven't learned these words yet. That's very nice. Okay, someone else said something? Sorry, I talked over you. Go ahead.
Cause it to smoke.
Exactly. And we're not talking cigarettes, but exactly. Yep. To cause the smoke, to cause to make this thick ketoret smoke, the thick smoke, right? The purpose of the smoke, sometimes it was used to actually make it so you couldn't see what was behind it. So who's doing it? A Kohen. The Kohen, so again, it's one guy. The Kohen, the priest, will make it smoke. What will he smoke? Hakol. Hakol. What's hakol mean? I said it in English by accident.
Or
In literal, the all,
Yeah, very literal. The all. Sometimes,
everything,
yeah, all of it, right? All of it, right? Because it's an olah, right? He doesn't get to eat any of it. He makes it all into thick ketoret. It's very nice that you came to mind with the ketoret samim. Okay, all of it. Hamiz becha. Look at this. I colorized part of it as a hint. What does this mean? Hamiz becha.
the altar.
The altar.
That's Hamiz beach. But what about the ah
wrote
at
that
the end?
but it's toward,
Yes.
Over
Feminine.
Yes, very nice.
it's like a mitzrayma,
Yes, excellent.
towards.
Very good. You're seeing the patterns. Did everybody catch what he's saying? It's just like we say Mitzrayim. Mitzrayim is Egypt, but Mitzrayim is direction towards Egypt. It's the hey locale or the hey direction, right? Or if I were to say, let's go to Jerusalem, I say Nelech, let's go Yerushalayim. The ah means towards Jerusalem. You see? The Torah warns us not to turn. Yamina, yamin means the right. Yamina, to the right. Or samola, samol is left. Samola, to the left, right? Because when you're on the derech, when you're walking on the path, you're moving, right? You're moving, just like we said. Kol atzmotai, all my bones yesterday, they're moving in prayer, right? We're moving. We're doing something with life. We're not stagnating. You're always moving, and when you're sinning, you're falling off the path, right? We're getting back on the derech, right? Yeshua is the derech. You can see, you can do a lot of sermon stuff with this, right? A lot of drashot from this. So in this case, it tells us about how the smoke is supposed to operate. So he's supposed to conduct the smoke. He's supposed to make it smoke thickly. The priest is supposed to do this, all of it, all of the olah, towards the altar. So the smoke goes towards the altar. Isn't that interesting? Okay. Olah, what's olah?
whole burnt offering.
Yep, the whole burnt offering. Ishay. So Esh, Ishay is a fire offering. A fire offering, right? So the idea is it's giving us, this is kind of a synonym of what an olah is. It's an ishay. It's a fire offering from Esh, from the word Esh. See, up here we have Esh, like this, with no dagesh. For some reason, there's a dagesh in this one. I don't know why, but this is a word in and of itself, right? There's not like grammar, it's combining with something. So ishay is a fire offering. Maybe, so this would have been originally Esh, and this would have been ishay, right? You would have had a double sheen there. A fire offering, Reach Nichoach. And I used to have a band called Reach Nichoach. That was the name of the band. What's Reach Nichoach mean? Anybody know this?
React from Ruach spirit or
Oh,
something like that.
that's a good guess. It's a good guess. And maybe there is some ancient connection there. It could be because Vav and Yod sometimes they'll interchange. But it could be. A reach is something you smell. It's an aroma, right? And you can see
Sweet savor.
Yeah, that's right.
Sweet savor.
What's that?
Sweet savor.
Yeah, like a sweet savor, a pleasant aroma. But I just want to narrow in on what Doc said. I think you're keying into something. This reish and the chet, I think reach must be related to ruach. Because ruach is a wind, right? A wind. And reach is a smell. And the smell that gets carried on the air, right? So there must have been some ancient connection in the etymology of this word. I think you're probably right. There is some connection to spirit or wind there, right? A reach nichoach, and a pleasant aroma. Ladonai, for Adonai. Okay? Then here we have the samech in the scroll. Go ahead. Question?
The para is lower leg.
Yes. Lower leg or
And
fibula.
you slash fibula.
Yeah.
A fibula, actually, the lower leg consists of two bones.
Okay.
One is fibula, which is the smaller one, and the bigger one is called tibia.
Ah, okay.
So fibula is only one of the bones.
All right. So that
So this is just the smaller bone.
it must be, yeah, because halot says it's lower leg, and then it says fibula. So let's just go with fibula then. Thanks for that, Doc. So the more precise, if we're going to say lower leg slash fibula, we might as well just say fibula. But let me just put forward an idea here. Let's keep in mind in context. Remember, certain words are going to have different meanings in context. Let's see if this ever shows up where it makes sense that it could be the whole lower leg, and when it makes sense in other places where it would be just fibula. That could be. I'm not saying it is, but let's just look. I'm curious to see if it can, in different contexts, be more generalized, right? Like hand me the leg is very general, right? But what part of the leg? And then I can say, oh, well, the lower leg. Really? Which part? Oh, the fibula, right? As we have the 10,000-foot view on the lower view. So I'm accepting fibula right now, but let's keep in mind that maybe there might be a context where it can also be lower leg, because I don't know why Halot would say lower leg. I think it's at like number 2, lower leg, and number 3, fibula, right? Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay, great. Nice observation. Thank you for that. Okay, any other comments or questions? All right, and then here we have the samech. This is showing us there's a space in the scroll. There's a space in the scroll. So this is part of the Masorah, so I like to include it just so that we're seeing everything as it is, as it was preserved. Ve'im min hatzon korbano min hakesavim o min ha'izim le'olah. Okay, there's our end of clause marker. Okay, what's ve'im mean? Im, what's im? Im.
And
If.
if
Okay, if. So I would probably say, now if min hatzon. What's min hatzon?
From the sheep.
from the sheep,
Good. From the sheep. Korbano. What's korbano?
his offering,
Yep. His korban, his offering. Good. Min hakesavim.
offering.
Min hakesavim. So kesav. This is another word for sheep, right? It's like a younger sheep, right? So I'm just going to say sheep, right? So son, it has a 7,000-foot meaning, which is flock, right? So technically, instead of sheep, I'm backing up because I see that we're now getting the specific word for sheep. So let's back up, okay? So I'm going to say flock, because a flock, this word son, it can mean sheep. You're right, but the high level, the 7,000-foot level meaning of the word is flock, right? So if from the flock is his offering, and now we're going to get more specifically, min hakesavim, from sheep, or min ha'izim, or from goats. You see, so we're breaking up. You can have a flock of goats, you can have a flock of sheep, right? So I'm recorrecting. So we have our first pass, we say sheep, but now we say, oh, we're talking sheep here, so let's say flock, okay? Right, because the other was from the herd, so this is from the flock. If his offering is from the flock, if it's from sheep or from goats, le'olah, what's le'olah mean?
For offering.
For the whole burnt offering.
For whole burnt.
Zachar tamim yakrivenu. Okay, what's that mean? Zachar tamim yakrivenu. Zachar, we learned, is male, right? So male tamim. Tamim?
Male clean.
Yep, clean, unblemished.
Unblemished.
Yep. Yakrivenu.
He shall offer it.
He shall offer it. He shall present it, right? If we're being very specific with what's happening. Very good. Okay, any questions before we go to our last slide? Last slide is easy, so rest easy. All right, let's look at our last slide now. I think there's only one word you haven't been exposed to on here, and I have it highlighted. Okay, verse 11, Yod Aleph. V'shachat oto al yerech hamizbeach sofana livnei Adonai. Okay. Shachat oto. What's that mean?
Destroy. Shakat.
Oh no. Okay, it sounds similar. Yeah, it sounds similar. Sorry, that's shichet with a tav. This is with a tet, right? You see?
At,
Yeah, tet, yeah. So it's too bad we don't say tet as th anymore. Then we'd hear a difference. Shicheth versus shachat, right? But unfortunately, we speak it like Israelis now. So the shachat is what? A shochet is a butcher.
Shakat.
A shochet is a butcher. So a shachat
Okay.
is,
We shall
Slaughtered.
yeah,
Slaughtered.
that's right. Very good. So shachat means he slaughtered. Veshachat means and he will slaughter. Oto, what's oto?
He
It, good. It or him.
Him.
Yeah, you're right.
it
Yep. Technically him, but in English it sounds better to say it, right? Al yerech. Al, what's al? Upon the yerech.
On.
Yep. And yerech, this is an architectural term. It's interesting. The architectural terms we see in the Mishkan and also later in the Beit HaMikdash, they are derived from body parts, right? So yerech, this is the upper thigh, right? Like when Abraham Avinu makes his servant Eliezer swear to him, right? He grabs his yerech, his thigh, and he swears to him, right? This is an ancient Near Eastern swearing formula, right? But yerech in architecture it means the side, okay? So he shall slaughter it upon yerech hamizbeach. So what's that mean? Yerech hamizbeach.
side of the altar.
Right, the side of the altar, and then which altar?
The side
Safona. Safon. Do you know Safon?
sakon.
Safon means northern. Northern.
North or south?
Yes, that's right. And this is actually very interesting. When you get into prophecy, I think people get into trouble because they take the Hebrew words, especially if they read an English Bible or in a translation, and they see Safon as being north and Safon as towards the north, right? We have our Hey Lokal at the end, right? Hey directional, towards the north, right? The altar facing the Safon, right? But the problem is Safon developed over time to mean north. There's a region, there's a Har Tzafon, Mount Tzafon, right? This is where those worshippers of Baal, they believe that Mount Tzafon had a lot of stuff happening on it. That was Baal's mountain, and there's a lot of trouble whenever invading armies would come through from the east. Oftentimes they would go through that area, the Har Tzafon area, the Tzafon, and so when you have these prophecies about the end times, like Magog and Agog and Magog and all this stuff, people they're looking at their English Bible and they look at a map and they say, "What's north of Israel? Oh, Russia! The Russians are going to invade, right? That's Magog, Agog," and they start doing this stuff coming from the north, but they don't have knowledge of the Hebrew language, and so you guys can have the insight now when you look at prophecies and realize the directions are more like local type of directions. They're not always evolved into this point of direct north, like magnetic north or something like we have today, coming with a Western understanding of language. Instead, it's the direction of Safon, right, where these bad things would happen, right? And similarly, how do you say west in Hebrew? Who knows the word for west? Yam or Yama,
Mizrach.
Yama, towards the sea, i.e., towards the Mediterranean Sea, Yama, right? And so that's not exactly west, is it? It depends where you are. If you're down in Eilat, and I'm telling you towards the Mediterranean Sea, it's going to be more like northwest, right? It's kind of angled, right? And so we also have these other words like Doram, which means south, but really Doram means the southern wind, right? And so it's kind of malleable, I think. And Kedem to the east, that one's a little bit more solid, but Kedem also means ancient, like the ancient times, right? So when you do your prophecies, if you're up against a wall or you don't like what the commentaries are saying, maybe consider that some of these directions, they're a bit malleable in Hebrew. If you're up in Nahariya, up north next to the Lebanon, then Safon is not north anymore to you. It's you see, it's almost like east when you look over to where it's at. This is just my own understanding, so I could be wrong on this. But I think that some prophecies which have been uncrackable, those of you who are into prophecy and stuff, you might get some better interpretations, or at least some new ideas, if you understand that these directions are more like a local sort of direction, right? Like if you've done math, like in vector algebra or in matrix theory, you have local reference frames versus a global reference frame. I think it's more like a local reference frame. Anyway, that's just my take on it. Maybe that'll unlock some prophecy stuff. Okay, so the altar which is facing towards Safon, Lifnei Adonai. What's that? Lifnei?
Before Adonai.
Nice. V'zaraku b'nei Aharon HaKohanim. Okay, Zarak, we said, is to sprinkle, right? So, and the Bnei Aharon HaKohanim shall sprinkle Et damo. What's damo?
Blood. It's blood.
It's blood. Al hamizbeach
It's blood
saviv. Remember Svivon, the
on the
dreidel?
altar.
Yep, on the altar, saviv, like Svivon, like dreidel, all around,
Around.
all around. Good. Verse 12. V'nitach oto limtachayv. And he will nitach, you remember this? He'll nitach, chop it up. Nitach oto, chop it up.
Give to set.
What's that? What's that?
Is it Natan to give to set?
Oh, no, I'm sorry. There's a chet at the end. There's a chet.
Okay.
It looks kind of like it, right?
Oh, yeah.
Nitach, this is a new word. It's a new word. I didn't expect you guys to know it. So it's to chop up. So he will chop oto, it, lintachayv, into its pieces, right? Ve'et rosho, what's this mean? Ve'et rosho?
Rosho. Head. Its head. And its head.
Good. And its head.
Its head.
Ve'et pidro, this is from the previous slide. Ped there is the kidney suet, right? The fat from the kidney. In the kidney fat, the arach hakohen otam. What's that mean? The arach hakohen otam. Arach, it's a new word we had. The Shulchan Aruch is the order of the commandments, right? The table. Yeah. Go ahead.
And order it.
Yes.
Order them.
Yes. And the priest will order otam, them, right? It's the definite direct object marker. Et plus mu. The mu is them, right? So otam is et, and then hem. Et hem became otam over time. Al ha'etzim.
Upon the wood.
Good. Upon the wood. Asher al ha'esh.
Which is upon the fire.
Nice. Asher al hamizbeach.
Which is upon the altar.
Great. Verse Yod Gimel 13. V'hakerev v'hakera'ayim yechatz b'mayim. Okay. V'hakerev, you guys remember this word kerev we just had on the previous slide? Kerev. The noun kerev. It's derived from the verb.
Innard.
Yeah, nice.
Innard.
That's right. And the innards, v'hakera'ayim. Okay. What's this word mean?
Kara.
Kera was a new word. Kera. We had the discussion about it, right? You mentioned a medical point that makes it more specific.
Yes, the legs. The legs.
Which leg? Which part of the leg?
The leg. The lower leg.
Yeah, the lower leg, right? The lower leg or the fibula, right? You said it was more specific. Okay. What about this ending ayim? What does this tell us? Ayim. It's very specific.
Plural.
Not just plural. What kind of plural? Plural would be im. This is ayim. Yeah. Dual. Good. Very good, sister. Good. So the two legs, the two fibulas, right? Yichatz.
Wash.
Yep. He will wash
And
b'mayim.
he should wash in water.
In water. Yep. And actually, you can just render this as the fibulas or the legs, the lower legs. What happens is body parts which occur in twos. The plural of those tend to be dual in Hebrew. Okay, the dual. Even if we're not talking specifically two things. So if I'm talking about something that does not naturally occur in two, like I want to say 2 days, right? I can say yamayim. That means 2 days, 2 yoms. Yamayim, right? But if I'm talking about hands, yadayim, I can say, oh my gosh, after the battle, it was disgusting. The Egyptians left a pile of yadayim, a pile of hands. It doesn't mean 2 hands. It's just it naturally takes the dual because it occurs in twos, right? If there's a monster with 3 hands, I'd say he's got shalosh yadayim. It's still in the dual, you understand? It still occurs that way. Like, there's an example. The 3 foot festivals where we're supposed to go up to Jerusalem, right? For Pesach, for Shavuot. That's right. Say it again. Not regalim, raglayim. Raglayim. It's shalosh raglayim, right? Because regal is foot, right? You got 2 feet, right? So even though we're saying 3 groups of 2 feet, it's still raglayim, the shalosh raglayim, the 3 foot festivals. You see how that works? Anyway, you don't have to remember that if you don't want. Just a little bonus there. והקריב הכהן את הכל והקטיר המזבחה עולהו. אישי ריח ניחוח לאדוני. Okay. So והקריב הכהן, what's it mean? והקריב הכהן.
The priest will bring near.
Yep.
The priest will bring near.
Yep. The priest will bring near. The priest will
All.
present. Et hakol. All. That's right. Vehiktil hamizbecha. What's that mean?
Qatar, yeah, Qatar is forgot.
Related to Ketoret? Yeah, make it smoke. He'll make it smoky. He'll make it.
Smoke in the altar.
Yes, not in the altar. Look at the hay at the end. What's the hay tell you? Towards the altar. Yeah, towards the
Towards the
altar.
altar.
Olahu. What's this mean? Olahu. So
It's burnt offering.
that's that. You're very close. Oftentimes,
It is.
Tanachit.
It is a burnt offering.
It is right. Oftentimes, Tanachit. It will. Since we don't say is, right? We don't say is. It'll oftentimes just stick a pronoun in there. Oftentimes who to mean is, like a placeholder. Russians, they do this too, but they put a dash, right? So olahu, it is a burnt offering. Ishe, what's ishe? Remember, not esh, but ishe.
Fire.
A fire offering.
Fire.
Fire is esh.
Fire offering.
Ishe is fire offering. Don't get it confused with isha, a woman. It's ishe, a fire offering. Vayach nichoach, a sweet aroma. Ladonai, to Adonai. Lahadonai, and then we have the Fei, showing there's a big white space after this in the Torah scroll. Okay, so that is the end of the first aliyah. You guys did great. Really good job with the immersive learning today. Did you have any other questions you want to ask real quick before we end?
When could you flash the first slide?
Sure. Hold on, there's an easier way. Let me select. Okay, this one. The one that shows the verses or the one that shows the actual first part of the aliyah?
The first slide regarding the wheel, something like that. I forgot.
Okay.
Red zone,
Okay.
something like
Okay. Just a sec. PowerPoint froze on me. I clicked on it. There it is. This one, right?
Yeah.
Lirtzono.
The lertono.
Yeah.
Lirtono.
Yep.
And you said it means as he desires.
Something like as he desires. If you want to be hyper literal, it's for. Although lamed we learned can also mean according to retzono, his desire, right? So it just sounds better in English to say as he desires, right?
As he desires.
You could also translate it as for his will, right? According to his will, right? And like I said, we do this in the kahal when we do the Yevarech Adonai v'yismarecha, right? And all the people say, "Ken yehi ratzon." Yair Adonai parabalach v'yichunecha. Ken yehi ratzon, right? So it's according to his will. Oftentimes you don't have to put a suffix on; it's implied. So Ken yehi ratzon no is what we're saying, but it's actually ratzon, right? So similar thing here. Ratzon no is his will, his desire, his outcome, what he wants. Litzon literally for his desire, like meaning the way that he wants it. It just sounds clumsy in English to say for his wanting, right, or something. So as he desires. Okay?
Yep.
Any other comments or questions, guys?
Why not using the karetson? Why not karetson if it means as he desires?
You can say that also.
Karetson.
Yeah, you can say that also. Kiotsono or kiratson, you can also do that. Yeah. It's just that some of these ancient formulas, they developed in a certain way, and the writings of the sages, they record that this is what the people would respond when the Aaronic benediction was said. They'd say ken yehi ratzon. So ken, today in modern Hebrew that's yes, right? But that was like such yehi, let it be or may it be, ratzon, desire. So maybe it was a short formula or something. Later in the Psalms, you'll find out that oftentimes you can leave a suffix off of a word and it borrows the suffix from another place in the verse, right? For the sake of brevity, for the sake of meter, right? So that it's got the right kind of count. If it was a song, right, they would abbreviate it. So probably developed in that usage, right? Just so that it worked out easier for the people. Ken yehi ratzon, right? And then they say the rest of the blessing. Ken yehi ratzon. Say the rest of the blessing. Ken yehi ratzon. And finally, Amen at the end. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Rabbi.
Yes.
Rabbi may I also say the lamed there also stands for apart from to. It could also mean for.
Yes. For his desire. That's true. You
Thank you.
could interpret this way. Yep. The as he desires, the reason for interpreting this way is looking at the Septuagint and looking at the Targums and seeing how they translate it in this manner as well. Instead of saying, they translate as he desires or as he wills it to be, like this. And we also have context. If you look at the next verse, so here it is. So now we have Adonai is now in our mind. Verse 4 says, "V'samachilo al rosh ha'olah," then he shall lean on the head of the olah. V'nirtza, when nirtza. So we have, this is a verb from the same noun here. Ratzon, it comes from the verb ratza. It comes from this verb ratza, right? So the Hebrew parallelism oftentimes helps us to know how to interpret a thing, right? So parallelism meaning there's a repetition of the idea or some other flavor it is put forward. Sometimes it's an antonym, right? It's the opposite is put forward. And so that'll help you to interpret oftentimes the verses around that verse or the clauses around that clause. So here we have the nifal of the verb from which ratzon is formed from. Ratzon comes from ratzah, to want or to desire. In modern Hebrew, you could say like, ani rotzei lalechet, I want to walk, I want to go, right? Ratzah. So this is nirtza, right? It is pleasing, it is wanted, right? So when it's pleasing lo, what? The offering. Then it will kaper alav, it will purge out, it will purge him, or it will atone for him, atone over him, right? So then we understand that we're talking about Hashem as being the object of the ratzah here, right? So then Rotzono, it's got to be pleasing to him, to Hashem, right? So that's why as he desires, as he pleases, etc. Okay? It gets a little bit tricky, but yeah, and I highly recommend if you want to delve deeper into Leviticus, in the works of Jacob Milgram. He's really a great scholar on this. You can pick up articles sometimes you can find online from him, you can get for free, or either there's a vocabulary book I've been wanting to get from his on Leviticus that's out there on Amazon. I never got it. I think it's a vocabulary of Leviticus, it's called, by Jacob Milgram. That would also be very good. But or we could just work through it ourselves as we go through. Any other comments or questions?
I have a question.
Okay, Ate first.
The last slide.
Okay,
the last one regarding the north. Yes. Can you explain that again? Because I heard a pastor saying about Russia, and my connection got lost.
Okay.
Can you say that again?
Sure.
About the north?
Okay. So
it's on the last
right.
slide.
So when people read the Bible in a translation, we take with us a lot of baggage, right? So as an American, for me, and I think as most of the modern world, we think of directions as being very fixed, don't we? Right? Because we live in an era where the world has been mapped, right? We have magnetic north, we have true north, right? So when a moderner, let's just say a moderner, not an American or something, when a modern person hears the term north, right? They look at a map and they want to draw a line straight up and see what is directly north, right? Or they look east or west or something like this. But in the Hebrew language, we notice that these words, I think they tend to be a bit more, well, if you think about how they developed. So Tzafon is an actual place. Har Tzafon. It's a place, Mount Tzafon. And so the Hebrew words for directions, they derive from what was in that direction, okay? So for example, the word for west, Yama or Yam, Yama is towards the Yam. We're talking about the Mediterranean Sea, right? So you're in Israel. What's to your west is the Mediterranean Sea, generally speaking, right? But if you're down in Eilat, down southern Israel, the Mediterranean Sea is not really to your west. It's more like northwest or northwest-west or north-northwest, something like that, okay? Mount Tzafon, when you're in Eilat, it's kind of like north-northeast, right? It's not exactly north like we moderners think on a map, how a map works. The word for south, there's two words for south. We have Negev, right, which is the region of the Negev. Well, if you're in the Negev doesn't really mean south to you anymore, does it? It's like here, right? If you're up in northern Israel and you talk about the Negev, Negba, it'll say Negba, that's towards the Negev, then it kind of makes sense. That's south, right? That's locally what's down below you, all right? But if you're in Nahariya, I'm sorry, I gotta mute somebody. It's some sound that I can't. Sorry, I don't think so well when I hear these other sounds. Okay, so if you're up north in Nahariya and you talk about Sifona towards Safon, that's not north at all anymore. That's like east, maybe even southeast, something like that. You see? So I think it's a mistake to superimpose the modern interpretations of north, south, east, west onto scripture just because we've developed a very global, concrete understanding of you get your map and you take the rule and you draw north, look, it's Russia, right? So it's got to be Russia coming down. I think that's a mistake. I think we need to understand the Hebraic thinking, the way that the language worked, that these things develop. So, like I was saying in mathematics, if you take your fingers and you make X, Y, Z a little coordinate system, we have global coordinates that are X, Y, Z, which are like universal, and then you can have local reference frames all over the place, which is from the speaker's perspective, what is X, what is Y, and what is Z, and that can actually rotate around. And I think that's more what we have with the tabernacle and what we have, with the Mishkan, what we have with these directions in biblical Hebrew, at least in the times of Torah. And I think even later into the Nach. So when a prophet says it's from the north, you have to understand trouble comes from the north. Many invading armies came through that region of Har Tzafon, Mount Tzafon. That's where the Ugaritic pantheon, a lot of their stuff happened over there, right? So there's a lot of dark things that are coming from that region of the world. That is not north. It's kind of north. If you're down in a lot, it's like northeast, right? Something like that. So I think if the prophecies don't seem to line up, then maybe take the more directional. And I mentioned Negev. There's another word for south, Duram. Duram was a hot wind, a desert wind. And that's used oftentimes to mean south in the Hebrew Bible, right? And so now we have a wind that's telling us about where the south is. Well, the wind moves, doesn't it, depending on the time of day. And so I don't think it's as nailed down as people think it means. I think probably if you're an ancient Israelite and you're living in the time of the late prophets, you've already been aware of the invasions that come through Tzafon, right? They're not invading you from Russia, from ancient Russia. They're invading through this mountain pass. They're getting in because it's easy to launch a surprise attack through that area. They're coming through the region of Har Tzafon, or the Tzafon valleys, the Tzafon mountain valleys, mountainous areas. So I think that's important for interpreting these prophecies, to understand how these directions came into meaning into Hebrew. I could be wrong. This is just my opinion. I could be wrong on that, but I think there's a disconnect when moderners try to apply these modern understandings of directions to the Bible, and it's separate from the Hebrew words, right? You see it in the Hebrew, right? Yemen is called Yemen, the whole country is called Yemen because it's Yamina, it's towards the right, right? So these directions, they come into being because of the local orientation of things, okay? Did you get it, sister, this time?
Thank you.
Yeah, sure, okay. Any other comments or questions?
Thank you.
Comment.
Go ahead.
Comment.
Yes.
Yes.
Comment.
Yes. Thank
Yep, comment. I read the
Thank
commentary from one
Thank
of
you,
the.
Rabbi.
You're welcome, Tom.
I read the commentary from one of the Orthodox rabbi that the reason why many shy away from Leviticus is because it's filled of blood, guts, and yuck.
Oh, yeah. Makes sense. Yeah, makes sense.
So the proper way to understand Leviticus is in the first two verses, which is to near offering.
Yes.
So probably since because of our sins we were separated, and now Hashem is trying to reconcile us by to be near Him. So we have to bring near a near offering,
Yes.
which is through this animal sacrifice.
Right.
Yeah. So if we look in that perspective of all these sacrificial animals, then probably we'll get a better perspective.
It's a good point. I like that. Yeah, I think so. And it's like you said, you can extrapolate from that. Leviticus, more than any other book, is about relationship with God, restoring relationship, keeping relationship, right? Trying to keep the connection correctly, to give something that's valuable to Him, right? And also not just with God, but with the community as well. When we get into the so-called peace offerings, the community offerings, the shelamim, right? There's a whole other dynamic that's at play with wanting to have a nice situation with our Creator and also with our fellow man. Yeah, so yeah, very nice. Nice point. Any other comments or questions?
Yeah.
So again, sorry about the technical difficulties. We had to start later today. What's that?
I think we have a very fruitful session today.
Baruch
We have a
Hashem.
very fruitful session today.
Yay. Yeah, it was fun, wasn't it?
Lord.
It's fun. I'm glad.
avodah.
Yeah, bevakasha. I'm very happy to all you guys. And oh, let me see. Someone writes something. Let me see. Oh, it's private. Okay, fine. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Great. Okay, Yofi. I'm gonna let you guys go then. Look, no additional homework this week, but I would like you to let's wrestle with the text a bit. Not all of you have given me your homework, by the way, the midterm assignment. I know it's long and it's big, okay? So I've gotten from several of you. Thank you for that. Please make sure you're finishing the annotations for those aliyot that I assigned a couple weeks back, okay? I know it's a big project, but I think it's worth it to nail down this stuff. And look, it's not a test. We're not having to do a test or something, right? So I think it's very useful, okay? I think if you're interested, tell me over on Hebrew Literacy. Tell me on the chat if you're interested in seeing my translation for this week's parsha. If so, I'll send it over to you guys and from a couple years ago, and you can maybe compare as you go through yourself. Okay? Okay.
Yes, please.
How will,
Thank you.
how will you send the translation? Is it
I think I'll just
by
do.
PDF
I think
file?
I'll just do PDF, yeah, for the parsha. It's not like a whole book or something. So it's just this week's parsha. I'll send it. And if you see mistakes, let me know too. It's a couple years ago. I banged it out and haven't really looked at it so much yet. So there could be some issues. I would appreciate feedback. Okay? I'll send that tonight.
Avodah.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, Lihitrop, guys. Be
Thank you very
well.
much.
Shalom, shalom. My pleasure.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Very welcome. God bless. Be well.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Oda, thank you.
You're welcome.